Massive changes to the Florida housing market are emerging. And today we're going to do a deep dive analysis into the most recent housing market data that exists within the Northport, Bradenton, and Sarasota housing markets. Now, the only thing I can ever guarantee is change. But as a boots on the ground operator of a high performance real estate team, I also understand there is a tremendous amount of misinformation that's out there confusing the consumer. And the one thing there should be absolutely zero confusion about is mortgage interest rates going higher. And the nonsense inflation numbers that are being reported, I suspect most of that information, which will be eventually revised, is really intended to keep politicians in office. But Big Papa Powell has told us exactly what he intends to do. And it's not just Big Papa Powell, because Jerome Powell has told us exactly what he intends to do, and so is the rest of his crew. And breaking news, the Federal Reserve's Loretta Mester says that the rate target will need to go over 5%. And in case you're not familiar with who Loretta is, she is the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland president. And she's gone on to say that the U.S. Central Bank likely has more interest rate rises ahead amid signs of recent banking sector troubles that have been contained, up until they haven't been contained. Now, precisely how much higher the federal funds rate will need to go from here and for how long the policy will need to remain restrictive will depend on how much inflation and inflation expectations are moving down. And that will depend on how much demand is slowing, supply changes are being resolved, and price pressures are easing. And while she went on to say that the US banking system is sound and resilient, the stresses experienced in the banking system may have eased. And although she went on to say that the US banking system is sound and resilient, the stresses experienced in the banking system in March have been eased, but the Fed continues to carefully monitor conditions and is prepared to take further steps as necessary to ensure financial stability. Which tells me that the Treasury intends to print more money if they need to, which is the opposite of containing inflation. And she went on to say that there should be meaningful improvement in inflation with price pressures easing from their current 5% year over year increase to 3.75% this year and 2% by 2025. And if you believe the inflation numbers that have been reported are accurate, well, I don't. I suspect they are being vastly underreported. And unemployment, which is currently at 3.6%, should rise to between 4.5% and 4.75% by the end of this year. And if you believe that the unemployment number is actually that low, well, then I think you're in for a massive shock because I believe it is completely underreported. And I believe all of these numbers will eventually be revised. And I suspect when they are going to be shocking. But in an effort to not turn this into an hour-long dialogue of what I think is going to happen in the future, I can tell you this. When the Fed funds rates go higher, you can expect to see an uptick in mortgage interest rates, which is no bueno for the housing market. It's critical to understand the changes that are emerging so that you can make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. So let's get right into it. The Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton Metro single family home sales for February 2023. And to be totally clear, as you can see on the map, we're talking about the housing market in Manatee and Sarasota County. We're talking about Southwest Florida, which trades completely differently than the southeast coast of Florida. But it's critical to understand if this is a market in which you're thinking about buying or selling. And if you are, and you'd like to be connected to an all-star professional who can serve and support you at the highest level and advocate and negotiate for you the right way, then please reach out because I will connect you with someone that we know, like, and trust who can absolutely do that right away. But let's get into the data because the data does not lie. Closed sales in February are down 18.2%, And that is a trend that we're seeing in almost every market that we've covered. Median sales price has upticked almost 7% to $490,000. The average sales price downticked by almost 2%, 1.6 to be exact. It dropped to 648,000. And to be exact, it was actually $648,921. So let's just call it 649, which is a downtick of almost 2%. The dollar volume dropped, but that's to be expected when closed sales have dropped by 18%. And the median percent of original list price received dropped 4.3%. Last year at this time, it was 100%. And this year, as of February, it was almost 96%. Median time to contract increased 350% from 6 days to 27. And to be clear, this is a return to normal. And although we see a downtick in the average sales price, I suspect that we're going to see single-digit appreciation within Florida, at least on the southeast and southwest coasts. Median time to sale uptick to almost 75%. That is now 75 days. And new pending sales are up 2.3%. And new listings uptick to 1.2% to be exact, which I suspect is a relief to most buyers because there has been an undersupply of homes in this market for a long time. Pending inventory up 9.5%. The active listings on the market, the inventory of homes that are sitting unsold, has upticked exponentially, up almost 300%, 289.1 to be exact, but a massive jump from the 906 homes that were available in February of last year. That number is now a touch over 3,500 homes that are sitting unsold. Great news if you're thinking about buying, not so great if you're thinking about selling. And predictably, the month's supply of inventory has upticked to up 400% from less than a month to 3. And to be clear, 3 months of inventory is still a seller's market. But to be clear, buyers have all the leverage. But let's get a little bit more granular into median and average sales prices because it is instructive to know what's actually happening as far as appreciation is concerned. Because homeowners in this market and in most markets in Florida are sitting on a metric shit ton of equity, which is completely different than when the market crashed the last time, when they had no skin in the game and no equity. But as of today, most homeowners are sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars of equity and they feel wealthy. They feel safe. They feel secure. They do not feel financially challenged up until they do, which is why I shared the Fed's statement at the beginning of this video, because unemployment is going to go higher and the pain of recession is going to get worse. And that's already impacted the U.S. housing market to the tune of trillions of dollars. But as of February, it really hasn't impacted the Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton market at all. And as I've said in the past, some markets are more insulated than others, and each market is going to trade differently, which is why it is very critical to work with a professional that understands the hyperlocal market in which you're shopping in order to advocate and negotiate for you the right way. Nonetheless, median sales price up almost 7% in February of 2023. And if you look back over the course of the last year, what you can see is mainly double-digit growth, massive double-digit growth. And although January was 3.2%, if you look back to October when it was 31%, this market has been in fuego. 20%, 22, 26.5, 30, 29.5, 26.6, 29.9. Woo! This market has been on fire. But I really don't expect to see double-digit growth in this market for the foreseeable future. But I do think a return to normal and I do think a return to single-digit growth is likely in store for the foreseeable future, which takes us to the average sales price. And as I mentioned before, in February, it's down 1.6%, a 1.6% decline. But to be clear, that's a year-over-year comparison. And if we look back over the course of the last year, you can see massive double-digit growth. 21%, 18.8, 20.6, 19, 20, 21, 18, 21.1. It has been massive appreciation in this market for the last few years. And I don't believe that's sustainable. But to be clear, I don't see us resetting back to pre pandemic prices anytime soon, which does not mean that it won't or that it can't happen. But there's going to have to be a massive economic implosion for that to happen. And while I suspect the pain of recession is absolutely going to squeeze the consumer, I suspect it will take systemic failure across the board to really reset prices. Yet to be determined, I don't know, but I will continue to tell you the truth so that you can make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, and for your financial bottom line. Which takes us to another critical element that we must understand, which is new listings, the number of properties that are put onto the market during the month. And in February, we saw an uptick of 1.2%. But it has been a mixed bag of supply. And although the active inventory of unsold homes has exploded exponentially, there is still an undersupply of homes in most markets. And while February was an uptick of 1.2%, if you look back to December, November, October, and September, new listings were down 7%, 11%, 24%, 22%, and 8%. And to be clear, supply and demand will always dictate price. Which takes us to the thing that everyone wants to know about and we must always pay attention to, which of course is distressed sales. And in the Northport, Sarasota, Bradenton market, what you can see is a 400% increase in foreclosures, which looks like a massive uptick. But in reality, there were only 5 foreclosure sales in this gigantic metro, and there was only 1 short sale. And I suspect as the pain of recession gets worse, the distressed sale market will uptick in Florida. And it's critical to understand that during the last housing crash, it only took 10% of the homes for sale to be forced sales, to be distressed sales, to be on fire sale, to rock home values to the tune of 30%. But as of the making of this video, short sales, distressed sales, foreclosures are a non-event in the state of Florida. Up until they are. Now, I hope you found this content valuable, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up. If there's a market you'd like me to cover that I have not covered yet, leave it in the comments down below. And stay tuned because I will cover every market that exists within the state of Florida. If you're thinking about buying or selling, please reach out to me directly and check out my next video because I suspect you will love it a lot. And until next time,